My name's Alan Bracken, and I'm excited to be able to continue our discussion on the theme of extraordinary success. Our last session we talked about the topic of tenacity, and we defined tenacity as persistent determination. And then we went on to talk about how if we want to be extraordinarily successful, it's going to require us to live tenaciously. And so tenacious living really embodies three parts. The first one is being a continuous learner. This is about the gaining of knowledge. The second one is continuous growth. This is about applying the knowledge that we've gained. And then the third one is continuous serving. This is about passing on that knowledge to other people. So we chose to use the acronym of GAP. GAP stands for gaining the knowledge, applying the knowledge, and passing that knowledge on. And for this session, what we want to discuss is being a continuous learner. Continuous learning is about gaining knowledge and information. This is a very important phase. We have to get it before we can apply it. My friend and mentor, John Maxwell, says you cannot give what you do not have. Gaining knowledge is so critical in order for us to apply it. In 2004, Amanda and I had the privilege of meeting two tenacious coaches, John Wooden and Pat Summit. And both of these coaches had different styles of coaching, but they were both tenacious. I was so inspired by John as I watched him recite poetry, so clear, so crisp. At the time, he was 92 years of age. And that inspired me so much. He talked about how being a continual learner kept his mind sharp. And that was such an encouragement to me. One of the quotes that he's famous for is, "It's what you learn after you know it all that counts." Studies show that 70% of people do not complete a book after formal education. I fell into that category for a lot of years. And I'm not proud of that, but that's where I was. And it wasn't until I decided and made a decision that I wanted to be extraordinarily successful that I started learning and reading. That's when this quote really meant a lot to me, because it is what you learn after you think you know it all that really counts. I think there's a couple other things that we need in order to be extraordinarily successful. And the first one I want to look at is a teachable attitude. How can we learn if we don't want to be taught? If we're not teachable? It's no fun to be around a know-it-all, someone that doesn't want to learn and doesn't want to be taught. But when we're around people that have a teachable attitude, it's encouraging, it's inspiring, it's refreshing, and it's fun to be around those kind of people. I know that's the kind of person I want to be. Several months ago, I had the privilege to be at a conference with Nick Vujicic, an incredible guy, a very tenacious guy. No arms, no legs. He's overcome so much. He's persevered. He's been determined. His story, to hear him tell it, is just a story of resilience and overcoming and triumph. And it's so inspiring to be around and listen to a guy like this. And another thing that I was so encouraged by at this conference was two of my heroes were there, John Maxwell and Les Brown. Now, here's two men that are at the top of their game. In the speaking world, they're just among the greats. And it was so awesome because I had the chance to ask each of them what they learned from Nick. And they were in the audience taking notes and just listening to a person that's half their age and really learning. And what I got from that was they had a teachable attitude. And it was so encouraging and so inspiring, and that's who I want to be. I want to be someone that can learn from anyone. You know, John Maxwell does tell us that we can learn from anyone if, and I think this is the key, if we'll listen. So the first thing we need on this journey to extraordinary success is a teachable attitude. And the second thing I want to look at is the skill of listening. We have to develop a skill of listening. if we want to learn, be a learner, and gain information. How are we going to gain and receive knowledge and information if we don't work on this skill right here? Now, I know attitude's a choice, and I also know that listening is a choice. But for me, it's also a skill that I've been able to develop, because early on, I did not listen very well. I told you in our last discussion that I wanted an extraordinary marriage. Well, let me tell you, you can't have an extraordinary marriage if you don't develop this skill of listening. And an interesting thing I learned about myself was the reason I didn't listen. Now, this is a little bit embarrassing, but it's the truth. I didn't listen because I didn't value people. Here's what I know. We will listen to people that we value. And I'm not proud to say it, but I didn't value my wife. That's why I didn't listen to her. And that's why I didn't have an extraordinary relationship with her. But as I've worked on this skill, it's gotten better. Now, I'm not perfect, but I can tell you this. I am working on it, and I do see the value in people and the value in developing this skill of listening. I want to encourage you to do the same. And I want to encourage you to value people so that you will listen to them. Now, we're talking about learning. There's a lot of different ways we can learn, and let's just look at a few. There's obviously books, CDs, seminars, coaches, mentors, experiences. I've learned from all of these ways, and I want to encourage you to do the same, and maybe you already have. But I want to challenge you to continue to learn in these ways. In the society and world we live in, there's really no excuse for not learning, because we have so much information available to us. If we put all this together, what are we talking about? We're talking about gaining knowledge so that we can apply that knowledge, so that we can pass that knowledge on. We're going to do it through continuous learning, continuous growth, and continuous serving. So use our little GAP acronym about gaining, applying, and passing it on. So here's the challenge. Are you a tenacious, lifelong learner?